My name's Jeff Davis, and I'm the Chief of Police for the City of El Cajon. And on behalf of all the men and women of the El Cajon Police Department, we want to welcome you to our world of work, the El Cajon Police Department. So pardon me, but you notice that I'm answering emails while we talk. I hope you don't mind if I handle some of these, but as you can see, this is part of my job as the police chief. Communication is an important part of my job, and it is part of my world of work. So as we're talking, if you don't mind, I'm going to keep working. And you can see how much of a priority it is with these giant screens that I have, that I spend much of my time communicating with other city departments and other members of the community. So bear with me, but we're going to have this conversation while I complete some work. And I also know that most of you think of police as the men and women in uniforms that you see out in the police cars, on the streets, protecting us at home, at school, and even when you're out with your families. But I don't know if you're aware that there's so much more to police work that I don't think we share very often. So I'm hoping we take an opportunity today to show you some of it. Now, police work is 24/7. What I mean by that is there's always a need. So all day long, every day of the week, there are people in police work doing their jobs, and even in this building. So in this building, the El Cajon Police Department, there's 200 employees and another 100 volunteers. So any day of the week, any time of the day, there's people in here, this building, working. Sometimes we never turn the lights out. I mean, there's some areas in this building, the lights never get turned off because there's somebody in there working. Every day, there's men and women doing some sort of job in the police department, working to keep everybody safe. And we work in many jobs, not just as police officers, not just the men and women in uniform that you see out there. There are other jobs that support those men and women to keep us safe. And maybe you've thought about being a police officer. You've thought about being one of those men and women that you see out in the street. And if that's the case, I hope today will give you a little glimpse of what that world of work looks like. But maybe one of you out there right now is thinking, I've never thought about working as a police officer. I've never thought about this. I'm hoping today that we can show you some of the other jobs other than being a police officer in our world of work that might interest you. I mean, there's so many jobs that support the men and women in uniform out there that you see, and they're very important jobs. In fact, for instance, one of those jobs is that of the police dispatcher, communications operator, the 911 operator. So these are the people that answer the phone when you have an emergency and you call 911. And because we know emergencies can happen all different hours, any day of the week, night or day, these are some of the men and women that I was talking about that are always in the building. 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, those men and women are at their desk answering the calls, emergency calls, to help people. There's always somebody in those seats. There's always somebody there to answer those 911 calls. That's one of those areas I was telling you about in this building. The lights never go off. The lights are on 24 hours a day, and there's actually always people there doing their job. That is their world of work for the police department. So today, I think what we would like to do is highlight the men and women that do that job, the police dispatchers, the 911 operators, and give you a glimpse of their world of work, what they do. And remember, when you see that office, think about what I'm saying right now. The lights never go off in that office. Those chairs always have somebody sitting in them. And this might be one of those jobs you never thought about. This is a very important job to support out in the field. In fact, the police officers cannot do their job if it wasn't for the men and women answering 911. So to tell us a little bit more about this very important job, I'd like to introduce Police Dispatcher Amanda to tell you more about her world of work.
Thank you, Chief.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Chief Davis. As the Chief said, we are one of the areas of the police department where the lights never go off. We are here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Amanda, and I am a police dispatcher with the city of El Cajon. I've been here for a little over 6 years now, and I absolutely love my job. A little bit about me. I was born and raised in San Diego. I grew up in El Cajon. I went to Crest Elementary School right up the hill, and I went to Granite Hills High School here in the city. And then I went on to San Diego State University and got my bachelor's degree in criminal justice. And after college, I started volunteering with the California Highway Patrol, doing their Every 15 Minutes program. You guys may not be familiar with that yet, but you will one day. Focus on preventing drinking and driving amongst our teams. That's what ultimately got me interested in law enforcement, because before that, I hadn't really thought about a career in law enforcement. I wanted to be a part of something bigger than myself. I have 2 young boys at home, and I'm happily married to the love of my life, and I can say that I love my career just as much. So let me introduce you to dispatching. Dispatchers are the first line of communication between the public and emergency personnel. Public safety dispatchers are police dispatchers and the fire department dispatchers. We're 2 separate entities, but we work together to get a job done, and that's to keep you guys safe. Right behind me, you can see a little bit of what a communication center would typically look like, and we work off of a computer-aided dispatch system. So what that means is when you call, we answer the phone, and we do what we call a call for service, which is similar to kind of like an instant message, if you guys know what that is, or a text message. So it goes from one computer directly to another. So the call taker takes the information and relays that information to the dispatcher. The dispatcher is the one who is speaking directly with the police officers, and she's giving them that information live as it's coming into us. People call the police department for lots of different things, whether they're a victim of a crime or they're experiencing a situation that they've never experienced before. Typically, people that call us are not having a great day. So it's the dispatchers and the call taker's job to make those people feel like they're gonna be okay and that they're safe. And no matter what the circumstances are, we're gonna get through it. And the dispatcher's job is to help you get through that. When you're having a medical emergency or you're scared or there's something going on that you don't really know how to handle, we're the ones that are going to help get you through that. So to be a dispatcher takes a lot. It takes courage, empathy, it takes understanding. You need to be able to multitask and do lots of different things all at once. But it's also really fun because you're the one who's getting that information first thing. Before anyone else knows about it, we know about it. And we're the ones who send the police officers to you. So we kind of get to tell them what to do, which is also really fun. A little bit of statistics are we are a medium-sized agency. So El Cajon has anywhere from 4 to 5 dispatchers working at one time, but the larger agencies like San Diego Police Department or the Sheriff's Department, they have anywhere from 15 to 20 dispatchers working at the same time. But there's always someone sitting in these chairs to answer your phone calls, and that's the important part. At El Cajon, in a 24-hour period, which is a full day, we will answer anywhere from 400 to 600 calls for service. So we talk to a lot of people, and I love that. I love communicating with the public. I love, like I said earlier, being a part of something bigger than myself and being able to help my community. And in a year, we process approximately 200,000 calls, which is a lot of calls. Being a dispatcher isn't always serious either. We get funny phone calls. We get serious phone calls. You know, sometimes people call and they burnt their turkey and they're having a bad day on Thanksgiving, or, you know, they're in a serious situation. So we get to experience all of those things, and every day is different. So you're never going to do the same job every day. It's always different, which is what keeps me going, because, you know, doing the same job would get boring. So this is perfect. What we're looking for in the communication center is someone who is willing to help their community, to be the help that someone needs someday. So I strongly encourage all of you guys to consider a job in law enforcement. And there's many different jobs. You can be the police officer or the dispatcher or the records analyst or crime lab tech. You could do all sorts of stuff. So please look into it. It's really, really great. And I know that you guys are going to learn a little bit about our canines, and you're also going to learn a little bit about our SWAT team. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I had a great time. Thank you.
My name is Officer Murphy, and thank you, Amanda. And this is my canine partner, Reiko. One thing you're going to see in the El Cajon Police Department is we're a family here. So you just talked to our chief. You talked to dispatch, who is our eyes and ears, basically, for us, that sends us to call. And now you're going to talk to canine. And as you're going to see, though, in the family, we not just have adults, we also have our four-legged friends here that help keep us safe. One of the things you're going to see in canine is Reiko here. He's an 8-year-old German Shepherd, Belgian Malinois mix, and he's trained to do two things. So we say he's a patrol dog because he helps with patrol, helps find bad guys that might run from us, go into a house to keep the officers safe. So what they do is, we could send the dog in, he'll find the guy and bark and be able to go let us know that there's a bad guy in the field, in the car, anywhere else that you might see. He also is trained in drugs. So he's able to find drugs in cars and different things. And you might ask, well, how does a dog help compared to other people? Well, with his nose, dogs smell differently than we do. So for a dog, and I use spaghetti always as an example. So when you smell spaghetti sauce, you just smell the sauce that your mom is cooking and it smells really good. A dog doesn't smell it that way. So in their nose, when they take in that odor, they smell every single ingredient separately. So he's able to smell the tomatoes, the garlic, the salt, the pepper, and be able to process each one of those separately in his nose. So if he was trained to find garlic, he would, and you put 3 different sauces out, 2 that didn't have garlic and 1 that did have garlic, he would be able to tell you which one has the garlic and which 2 do not. And his command was to stop and stay. So if I put 3 pots out here in front of me and garlic was his thing, he would stop right at that sauce, stare at it, and eventually just put his paw right on it until he would get his toy that he wants. And right now, if you see him really looking at something, he is looking at a toy that he really wants that is right behind the camera. So that's really what he's excited to do. I heard that you guys might have some questions. Is there any questions you have reference canine or anything that the canine officers do? One of the main questions is what happens with the dog? That might be one of the questions, and how's he trained? So with us, he is part of the family. So when he's done working, he comes home. When he retires, he becomes part of our family. I have 3 kids at home. I have a 10, 8, and 3-year-old. And when he's at home, he's a normal family dog now. So he will sit there. He'll play fetch with my kids. He'll know the difference between being at home and being at work. Once he puts this vest on, and he sees me in my uniform, you'll see him run around the yard and get all excited. And that's kind of his way. It's time for him to go to work, and he changes to work mode. And I don't let my kids touch him when he's in work mode. He came from Europe. So most of our dogs do come from Europe, trained, and then we turn them into police dogs from the training that they've already received in Europe. And now I'm ready for any questions that the kids may have.
Do they have different kinds of dogs?
We do. So some of the dogs that you'll see common with police officers, the most common nowadays is the Belgian Malinois. So a Belgian Malinois looks like a German Shepherd, but they have shorter hair. You'll see them with the big black face on it. If you guys have parents that have like the Instagram account, one of our dogs is all over the place, Canine Jester, and he is a full Belgian Malinois. Another common dog is the German Shepherd, and that's kind of what people always think of. He's getting his ball real quick. He'll be right back. You'll see German Shepherds. Some agencies have used Dobermans and Rottweilers. Some use Labradors if they're just used for search and training type. And Reiko is a mix of the first 2. So he's half German Shepherd and half Belgian Malinois.
How do you train the dogs?
They come from Europe. And so they're trained in what they call Schützen training, which is the guys that you see in the bite suits that do different things. So then what we do is we train that, we kind of turn that into training. So I went to a 13-week school with him. So we started off small. So like looking for buildings, we would hide someone behind a building and we just show that, hey, you get a reward for different things. So you could tell he likes that black ball. We put that ball with things called drugs. So then he would associate this toy that he doesn't like to give up with that. So if he finds it, he gets his toy, and that's his reward for finding something. So we train every Wednesday for 10 hours. And that's, you could just imagine how much training, just like you guys go to school, if you didn't practice math every day, you wouldn't stay good at math, our dogs have to train all the time so they stay good at what they're doing.
How long had the dog trained? Like, how many hours does it train?
Okay, well, so Reiko is 8 years old. We got him when he was 3 years old, so he trained in Europe until he was 3. We went to a 13-week school, and then we train every Wednesday with our team for 10 hours, but then I train every day not working. So we do, you could do something at obedience, we just hiding different things. Like right now he's going to watch his ball bounce away and want nothing more than to stare at that. But it's a lot of the different training that we do. So just like you guys in school, would you be really good at math if you didn't practice it every day, or English? You probably wouldn't, right? But if you practice it every day, you only get better. And that's just the same thing we do as police officers. We always do training to continue to get better at what we do. Now that you guys want to know about the car, they're going to talk about all their cool things that they have that helps officers stay safe every day too.
All right, thank you, Officer Murphy. But right now, we're going to toss it over to the El Cajon Police Department's elite SWAT team and the SWAT team leader, Sergeant Jeremiah Larson.
As the lieutenant said, my name is Jeremiah Larson. I'm a sergeant with the El Cajon Police Department SWAT team. I've been on the department about 16 years. I've been on the SWAT team for about 13 years. With me is Officer White and Officer Palladino, and we'll get into what they do on the SWAT team in a little bit. First of all, for those of you that don't know, actually I'll throw it out to you guys here. Does anyone know what SWAT stands for? Right here.
S stands for the...
Special.
Yeah.
Special weapons and tactics. So SWAT team for agencies around the country, and especially here in San Diego County, most of them are referred to as SWAT teams, but SWAT just stands for Special Weapons and Tactics. Some teams refer to their SWAT teams as Special Response Team or Primary Response Team, but really it just is the team that has all the equipment that you see in front of you. This vehicle behind us, which is called a Bearcat, and I don't know if Lieutenant Ransweiler, if we're able to move this around a little bit so we can see the Bearcat. And as I was saying, the Special Weapons and Tactics. So really all that means is that we have a series of tools and weapons and training. We just have a series of tools and weapons and training that allows us to maybe attack some problems that as an officer in the field, we might not have the tools or the tactics or the resources available to us. So one of those tools is this Bearcat, and I'll let Officer Palladino talk a little bit about that. And then he's also one of our less lethal and chemical agents instructors, so I'll let him cover that a little bit.
Hey guys, Officer Palladino here. This is, like my sergeant said, this is what's called a Bearcat. It's an armored vehicle. It can withstand all sorts of bullet fire. In fact, there's a spot where it was hit during bullet fire on this arm here. It can hold all of our SWAT personnel if we're going out on a mission. There's a turret up top that Officer White's going into now. They can spin around so that somebody can be up there, and what's called overwatch. So he's checking out to make sure everything is okay for the officers on the ground. You'll see sometimes SWAT officers up on here holding on and doing their thing, but that's pretty much to get us from point A to point B and keep us safe during the whole mission. So there's Officer White up there on the turret. There he is. And he'll go over the rifles that he uses later on in the demonstration, all right? I have a couple weapons here, less lethal weapons. This here is essentially, you guys probably all know it as a paintball gun. So this has special paintballs in it, however. They're pepper ball, they're filled with like a chemical. Essentially, if a person comes at us with, say, a knife, we don't have to use our guns, we can use these weapons to take them down. So that chemical hits them, it stops them from breathing, makes them drop the knife, we can move on and do what we have to do. Another weapon we have here is what we call a multi-launcher. So this holds, as you can see, 6 shots. These weapons here, and then as you shoot it, it rotates through. So you can keep shooting. So basically what happens is, these here, just the tip of them, comes off and is expelled and hits the person, causes them to drop. Won't kill them, just cause them to stop what they're doing. Moving on, this is really cool. It's a sound and light diversionary device. Kind of looks like a little mini grenade. But what it does, think about the biggest firework you've ever been under and the explosion and the light and the sound, and that's exactly what that does. It distracts the person, the bad guy that we're kind of going after, so that we can do what we need to do. This here is a gas that we can say you have a house or a residence and you need to get the bad guy to come out. Well, he won't like this very much, because once we throw this through the window, or it can be put into this, which is called a gas ram. This punches through the wall and the gas comes out here. That gas will cause that person to cough and not breathe very well, and he'll want to get out of that house immediately so that we can take him into custody and do what we need to do once again. So that's a general idea. What I do as a grenadier on the SWAT team. Hope you got some info out of that. I'll pass it off to Officer White.
So before we move on to Officer White, as I mentioned before, the special weapons and tactics, it's really just more resources. So much like the K9 officer and Rako and Officer Murphy, it's another resource. So the pepper ball and the 40 millimeter and the chemical agents, those aren't something that officers normally carry on their belts. That's not something that we walk around with in the field when we go to community events, or we have officers that are assigned to the mall or an officer assigned to the school. We don't have them carrying around things like this. So in the event that we need something like that, that's when we would call out the SWAT team. And I can tell you with great certainty that the pepper ball gun is effective with not only pain, but the chemical agent in there. So I'll turn it over to Officer White, who's one of our snipers on the team. I'll hold this for you if you want.
Okay, perfect. So I'm one of the 4 snipers on our El Cajon SWAT team. We work in teams of 2. I'm the only one who could make it here today. I'll just show you a little bit of the equipment that we use. So this right here, this is our scoped rifle, or our scoped AR-15 that we use. It's more for closer distances. One of our snipers on our teams will be laying down behind this, kind of like a spotting scope. We use it as well too. And then this one here, this is our Remington 700. It's redone by Robar, and we can take shots with this weapon, precision shots, anywhere from 50 to 1,500 yards. So who knows how much 100 yards is?
Probably 1,000 feet.
Football field, exactly. So think about 15 football fields, okay? 15 football fields long, and we can shoot whatever we need to shoot down at that distance at a precision target. We use other things like these when we gotta hide, right? We don't want anyone to see us, so we put stuff like this on. It breaks up our figure, right? We don't want them to know exactly where we're at, so we're not usually up with the team. We're usually back behind, watching their backs, making sure that anything that they can't see, that we are able to relay that information to them. A big part of a sniper's job is communication. We see things that the team down on the front can't see, right? So it's very important for us to be able to relay that information to the guys down there so they have it.
Okay, so there's basically 3 elements for every SWAT team. That's our chemical agents guys, our snipers, and then our entry team, which you guys see that big ram in front of you. We can ram a door open if we want to go inside. So that's kind of the makeup of our SWAT team. A lot of people have questions on how to get on SWAT. How to get on the SWAT team is we take a physical test. There's a physical component to it. And as you can see by looking at these 2 guys, you got to be in peak physical condition to get on the SWAT team. There's also a shooting test. We have to be able to shoot the guns we're going to be using. And then we train more so we can become better at and more proficient at the guns that we're going to be assigned to on the SWAT team. And then there's also an interview. And this is the most important part. I can tell all of you that are in school, and you're hopefully paying attention in school, because the most important part of being on a SWAT team is being able to think and adjust and think critically and be able to make decisions without being told what to do. So if we don't have people that can make decisions on their own or adjust to their surroundings, then they're not going to be a good team member. So somebody can shoot really well and somebody can be in really good shape, but the most important part of a SWAT team member is their mind. So we have to be able to think critically and adjust to what's around us. And lastly, I'll just go over real quick what our commitment level is once we're on the SWAT team. Of course, everyone on the team is a police officer. You have to be a police officer first. And then what we do is we train 2 days a month, 2 full days out of our work week. We're not a full-time team. We're what's called a part-time team. So all our other duties come into play. So Officer Palladino is on our community resource team. Officer White's on our mall enforcement team. I work in our training division. We all work separate assignments, and then when there's an event where we need the SWAT team, then we get called out, and that is now our primary duty. So we have 2 training days a month, and then we go to our primary duties when necessary.
Sergeant Larson, thank you very, very much. And Officers Palladino and White, I've got a couple quick questions from the classrooms that are being texted into us right now. And if we have enough time, I'll answer one of the two of these questions. And for Officer Palladino, the question for one of the students is it fun being a police officer?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's the best job I've ever had, to be honest with you. Like I said, we get to do all sorts of different things. It's not just one thing that we're doing. We get to experience a lot of things other people don't get to experience. So absolutely, it's a great job.
Is it difficult to be a police officer?
Well, in terms of difficulty, you got to think about what is difficult. Is it difficult to show up to work every day? I think that's pretty easy. It takes commitment, like our sergeant said. We train every day and we train hard, right? We work at our craft and what we're good at to better ourselves every day. And that's what it takes.
How many bad guys have you caught
How many bad guys have I caught in my entire career?
in your entire career?
I think that number is unreachable if we were going to try and evaluate that number today, but upwards of the thousands, if not tens of thousands.
Tens of thousands?
Tens of thousands.
Yeah, and that's
So-
not exaggerated at all.
No, absolutely not.
No, not at all.
We use M4A1s, so you must play Call of Duty. Yeah, okay. So you guys probably know more about half these weapons than we do because of Call of Duty. So we do use M4s. It's a little different format than an A1, but we do use an M4, yes.
Join the police force. What was your biggest risk?
Since we joined the police force, what was our biggest risk? That's a great question. And I think for all of us, we take a big risk every day. That's why we wear bulletproof vests, and that's why we carry a gun. We take a big risk because we don't know what's going to happen. However, most of the people in our community, most of the people that we contact want to see us and they want to talk to us, and so it's a pretty safe job. And that's why we train this way, so we can make it even safer.
Awesome. Thank you, kids, very much for being here. Let's say thank you to the SWAT team for being here. Both a round of applause. Right? And for everybody out there in the world of work, I want to thank you for joining us here at the El Cajon Police Department. On behalf of the Chief of Police and everybody else here, I hope you guys have a great day and enjoy your world of work. Thank you.